Welcome to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for your continued support to our channel. Ladies and gentlemen, Nelson Amenya, who is the whistleblower in the Kenya ADANI deal, is not giving William Ruto any space to breathe. Barely a few hours after the High Court halted any kind of deal between the UDA government and ADANI group of companies or its associates, Nelson Amenya has come up with yet another shocking revelation of a looming scandal that is worth billions of shillings. We all know that ADANI was the first whistleblower in this deal that was about to be signed in a very clandestine manner. In fact, were it not for Nelson Amenya, we would have woken up to realize that our airport is gone. So William Ruto got into a contract between himself or the Kenyan government and ADANI was to take over our JKIA with an expansion and operations for 30 years. Then thereafter, they were going to take some money or kickbacks for eternity. ADANI took over the energy sector and they took over our health sector. Experts were asking, how do you take all our vital dockets and give to one company? What if the company collapses and they are operating our most vital system? Because health is very vital to us, energy is very vital, and the Kenyan airport. But Ruto continued to defend this ADANI deal. The ODM fraternity led by Raila Amolo Odinga gave ADANI a clean bill of health. And after the statements from Raila, people who had worshipped Nelson Amenya as a hero decided to look at him as a villain. And they were telling Nelson Amenya that he had been contracted by a French company that wanted some contract in Kenya, and this company was denied. And therefore, they were using Amenya to fight the government. Be that as it may, Kenyans continued asking questions. And the Law Society of Kenya and Kenya Human Rights Commission went to the courts and this deal was nullified. William Ruto did not listen to us. And one funny thing, as usual, when ADANI was caught up in some scandal allegation in New York, William Ruto was ashamed. And he decided to listen now to the US because US had caught ADANI flat-footed in a bribery case. That is when William Ruto realized that this ADANI thing was very unpopular with Kenyans, and he announced that he had cancelled that deal. But I've always told you that there is a trust deficit between William Ruto and the people he leads. So Kalonzo Musyoka, Tony Gashoka, and some lawyers went to court and challenged William Ruto to corroborate facts or allegations that he has cancelled any kind of deal between the Kenyan government and ADANI, because they don't trust William Ruto. They feel just like he's always been talking and promising, maybe he's just telling us because he knows it is music to our ears. And so they challenged William Ruto to provide evidence. At some point, Nelson Amenya told us that there was some kind of intimidation against his parents because of his role in this ADANI whistleblowing. So once again, the courts halted any kind of dealing between the government of Kenya and ADANI or its associates. It's written that the High Court has directed the government to table evidence of cancellation of two multi-billion shilling deals with the ADANI group, which President William Ruto ordered last week following the recent indictment of Indian tycoon Bhutan ADANI. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as the courts were halting or directing the government of Kenya not to engage in any kind of dealing with ADANI, Nelson Amenya is at it again. And this will shock you. This is what Nelson Amenya is saying. Nelson is asking just a simple question. That is the Mombasa Port still ours? And he continues to say, a source close to ADANI Group says they were initially invited to take over the port of Mombasa, and he has tabled some evidence there. This is from the Financial Times. It says Adani only came to Kenya because officials in the country had invited the group to consider investing in the refurbishment of the port in Mombasa and to look at the country's transmission network. The person close to the company said the airport project only came up later. They added, the main problem with this ADANI enterprise has to do with the process. It was never open and transparent, said Moses Ndiema, Secretary General of Kenya's Aviation Workers Union, whose members were among airport workers who went on strike in September, chanting ADANI must go. So, ladies and gentlemen, the gist is here. ADANI only came to Kenya because officials in the country had invited the group to consider investing in the refurbishment of the airport in Mombasa and to look at the country's transition network. The person close to the company said, now, we are fond of dismissing such reports, especially when our party leaders support. Then later, we come to realize that taxpayers' money has been lost. And Nelson is only trying to jog our minds. He's asking, is Mombasa Airport safe? Because this was the initial intention of the ADANI group. Remember when the Mombasa governor led leaders from Mombasa and they were united against any leasing of the airport? I think this is when William Ruto had decided that he wanted to incorporate ADANI into this. And so Nelson is asking, do you believe that our airport is safe? And very soon, or sooner than later, we will realize, because this is how Nelson Amenya started. And the government tried supporting this. The pro-government started supporting this. Now it has been cancelled. And I think Nelson Amenya is telling Kenyans that let us be very careful. In court, William Ruto is told, can you produce evidence that indeed you have cancelled the ADANI deal? And I think Nelson is trying to link this to wherever it is in the court so that it is in our minds that as they were trying to cancel the ADANI Energy, ADANI Airport, and ADANI Healthcare System, they could be coming through the back door to give ADANI the airport deal. And let me tell you how and why this is very possible. Mombasa usually supports ODM. They have an ODM governor. Joho was given a portfolio. He's leading the blue economy. And that ODM governor, Abdul Samad, was also appointed a deputy party leader. And with the de facto party leader Raila Odinga supporting this ADANI and giving it a clean bill of health, it is expected that if Ruto proposes that they lease this airport to ADANI, no one will reject it. Look at the Finance Bill 2024 that the ODM led the other Azimio leaders to reject. John Mbadi is now looking at some elements of that bill. It is being brought back to Parliament. The very people who rejected the Finance Bill 2024. And so there is a possibility that they might decide to make an attempt of leasing our airport. You all know that the government wanted to lease or sell some of our corporations, state corporations, including Seed Corporation. You remember how we wanted to sell KICC and all that. And so when Nelson Amenya speaks about this and asking just a very simple question, is our airport safe? Are there documents to prove that our airport is safe? There is a problem, ladies and gentlemen. We need to scrutinize because we know what the government is capable of. They know that we are very happy when William Ruto announces that he has cancelled any deal between Kenya and ADANI. But then there is no evidence. And even if they produce evidence, they could follow another channel and give ADANI a contract to manage our port. There seems to be a deliberate effort to work with ADANI because one, I think money had exchanged hands. This deal involved some people, enriching their pockets. And those are not my words. I remember sometimes back before Raila got into this handshake with William Ruto, he told us that in the government-to-government oil deal, some very few individuals pocketed taxpayers' money. And that is the same thing he told us about the Mtihani deal. Remember how we were being told that the mess in our exams was because a company that had been initially publishing for us our exams was denied that contract because they refused to give kickbacks. And so even in this ADANI deal, there seems to be some quotas that had taken money and they want to ensure that they give ADANI something at whatever cost. Let us be very careful because ADANI might come back through proxies. If at all they had set their mind in the taxpayers' money, if at all they had set their mind in the multi-billion contracts, but that they were to share, because I have a feeling that some quotas from the government, some people from the government wanted to benefit from this deal, then I can assure you that Nelson Amenya could not be very far from the truth. And so this is just another whistleblowing. Nelson Amenya is only telling people to be very careful. He's in that very farthest land, but he's telling our Kenyan taxpayers that let us not be happy that William Ruto announced it. That is why he's being told, can you produce evidence? Because we know our president, he talks, he gets away with it. He wants to get away with the moment. But then, if at all it is true that some things could be cooking under the table, because this is what they wanted to do with ADANI deal, there could be another clandestine motive, another clandestine looming deal between the Kenyan government and ADANI. And even if the courts stop, they can decide to go ahead with it with impunity, because we have seen that happening. William Ruto has sometimes ignored court orders, and he has always maintained that sometimes he was not going to obey any court orders that were going against his will. You remember during the housing levy, during the transition from Shiv to Shah, he said that some people were only hell-bent in ensuring that they went or they sabotaged his agenda. So even on this, ladies and gentlemen, there could be another secret plan to introduce ADANI to our port. It is the duty of Kenyans, once Nelson Amenya has given you as a food for thought, to ensure that we remain vigilant, because there could be a deliberate effort to ensure that we make our Mombasa Port look like it's making losses. Then ADANI will come in. So let us be very careful. Nelson Amenya is only trying to help Kenyans, and we need to pray for him. We need to protect him, because if he continues revealing and exposing all the secret scandals, then you know what might happen to him.